Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Howdy ho. How's everybody tonight? It is a typical Monday for some who especially living on the Ontario area. We are getting dumped on. The weather kind of sucks. I'd rather have it during the week than on the weekend. And speaking of weekends, if you live in Southern Ontario, man, what a beautiful weekend it was. I hope everybody got out that lives down this way and enjoyed it. For folks like Kevin, you're having, as you said, the third winter in Manitoba. I don't know how many centimeters got dumped on you this time, but the last dumping was unbelievable. And yet, again, even more. Trish is in the house. How you doing, Jeremy? Tony, yeah, baby. Bill Allen, nice to see you, sir. Eric is in the house. Nick, GN, yes, sir, yes, sir. Steve Shaw, Charles is here. Wow. Oh, look at this. Very nice to see all of you. Holy smokes. Ed McKenzie's in the house, living vicariously through our community and everyone that got out on trout opener. And I can't imagine what it was like for you to just sit back and look at all the picks. The usual candidates were definitely busy, and we're hooking many, many trout. And I would like to speak on behalf of those who do the edits for you and all the video edits. If you can, we're going to have to start asking you to put it in the inbox. There were so many pictures shared on Facebook that for us to try and corral all of them, it's difficult. So on behalf of our editor, Steve Shaw, and our good buddy Walter out in Saskatchewan, and myself, and anybody else like Terry or whatever that tinker with doing edits, by all means, please put them in the inbox. Because as I said, there's just so much content. And congratulations to all who did get out on trout opener and did really, really well. But as Jim mentioned just before we went live, it was the typical folks that you would see holding up trout and did really, really well. We're going to get to that. We're going to be talking about that as well as many other things tonight. I just want to give you an update and basically just a reminder that if you are a walleye angler, and of course, walleye hasn't really opened for most of the country. We have one area down on Lake Erie that is open right now, but Walleye Wars is coming in June. So have a look, and maybe this is something you might want to participate in. As I said, there's weekly prize. There's an incredible amount of prizes, but I will leave it up to the video to do the description for you. So very cool. If you are a walleye enthusiast, you get out and fish. Maybe you've got a charter, something that you can maybe sell to some of your clients or even yourself to get involved. Again, it's all about length. It has nothing to do with weight. It is put on by the folks at Anglers Atlas and, of course, the MyCatch app. They have limited spots available. They were going to fill it up with 100. They may expand it depending on the interest. I know it's huge out west. It's a really big thing out west, but we're hoping it'll be just as big here in Ontario. Speaking of Ontario, OWA is doing a river cleanup, a shoreline cleanup on April 30th. If you are interested in getting involved with the Ontario Women Anglers, please reach out to Yvonne. She will give you all the details, or any OWA member. Always great to see our OWA members out doing their thing, and it is volunteer. I believe it's volunteer week, so no better time to get involved than this week. Of course, there are many retreats. Jan Lake is going on in the province of Saskatchewan, July 10th to 16th. All it requires is a $100 deposit. And people have been asking me, what does it cost? What's the actual cost? And here's the thing. The more CFNers that go, the less it is. So it's kind of cool. They're setting aside 20 spots for us CFNers. So if you're interested, reach out to Jan Lake Lodge. It's in, I believe, central Saskatchewan. Great looking fishery. I wish I could get there myself this year. And as I said, it's going on this July. It is our first Western retreat, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the videos. Of course, we can't talk enough about Horwood Lake Lodge. That's going on 15th of August to the 21st, I believe is the date. Yes. So meet, please, guys, the spots are starting to get filled, and I don't want to see you miss an opportunity to get to Horwood. Everybody needs a little bit of Horwood in their life. So by all means, reach out to Warren and Doris, and they will make sure to get your butt in a bed. And last but not least, of course, Camp McIntosh. We're going to be doing that in September. And I'm really looking forward to this. This is our first annual OFC Nation retreat. And I think we've got at least 3 cabins booked already. So if you're looking to book and get a butt in the bed, do it soon. Do it sooner than later. Otherwise, they will be gobbled up. And of course, I can't forget the CFN FishOFF that is coming very, very soon. And on that note, I will make sure to bring in our good buddy, Mike Consul, who is going to share us with some updates. Hey, Mike.
All right. Some updates people have been asking. And sometime this week, we will be releasing what our categories are, because there is a reason why I am wearing this Shimano. Look at this Shimano hoodie, because Shimano has stepped up in a big way. But before I reveal that, a couple pieces of information, we're just going to share my screen here. So if you have not signed up, I had a busy weekend. I haven't checked how many people have registered. Well, the last time I checked, it was over 300 anglers registered. So, May 21st, what day is it today? April 25th. So just under a month from now, we'll be starting the CFN FishOFF. 300 plus of you are already signed up. So sign up. And if you sign up before the end of the month, you will qualify for this prize pack. So we'll be talking about the prizes in just a bit, but you don't even have to catch a fish in order to qualify for this prize pack. Plus, if you refer someone to register, that'll get another ballot into this prize pack. So if I call Scotty registers, and now I got 2 ballots. I call Jim registers, now I got 3 ballots. I call, the Barnucz families, they register, now I got 4 ballots. And then Lawrence registers, now I got 5 ballots into this early bird draw. So refer your friends, let them know to sign up for the CFN FishOFF. Tomorrow, we have another amazing announcement, Scotty. So we know we have the online tournament. We know we have the TV tournament. There will be people competing in the online tournament that will be simultaneously recording for the TV show. So this is what we got so far. Last Tuesday, we said Mitch Zanelli and Brandon, who won our CFN FishOFF last year, they earned the right to compete in this year's version of the TV show. However, tomorrow, April 26th, we will be revealing 4 more anglers, and no one knows who they are other than those 4 anglers. They'll be joining us Tourney Tuesday, tomorrow, 7 p.m. So join us every single Tuesday. It's always a short show, never more than 30 minutes. We try to keep it to 20 minutes, actually. So join us Tuesday, 7 p.m., and you'll find out 4 more people who will be filming on the TV show, but also could be competing against you online.
Now, on that note, Mike, and it's exciting news. I love how we do these reveals. true testament to yourself, buddy. You're a marketing genius. But we are also looking to feature some great products as prizes. So if you're a small tackle producer and you're not really sure, how to, get the kind of advertising that you need, it's real simple. Provide us some product. We can make it exclusive to a provincial prize pack, because Mike and I are going to do our best to try and provide prizes for each province. The only exception might be out east, where we have like the maritime provinces, where they're all clumped together like they were last year. And it's just based on the level of participant, like the number of participants in the fish off. But we've got, it's pretty spread out, is it not, Mike, in terms of the number of teams and the number of provinces that are so far represented?
We definitely have the greatest representation in Ontario, but we have people from BC, we have people from Nova Scotia signed up, and we have people from Nunavut signed up. So we have a massive representation across the great country of Canada so far, but we want more. And what's great about it is, you know what? You might be like, oh, I'm in Saskatchewan, I only have X amount of species. There's no way I can compete with anyone in Ontario. That's okay, because every single species you catch will get you into the Shimano draw, which I'll speak about shortly. But another goal is I want to be the #1 team in Saskatchewan, because that will qualify me for the Saskatchewan prize pack. So many different ways to win. Catch as many species as possible, get as many ballots as possible, be the #1 team in your province, and maybe even be the #1 team across the country.
Amen. Christina, great question. When does the Fish Off air on Sportsman Channel? And the answer to that and any other CFN Fish Off related question will be answered tomorrow. So stay tuned to that. Join us for Turdy Tuesday, where we will answer that question and many, many more.
So before I get into the prizes, if you think, you know what, I'm a multi-species angler and I want to take my game to the next level, on top of the free CFN Fish Off tournament, in collaboration with CFN, we're also helping out with multi-species madness through the MyCatch app and Anglers Atlas. The registration fee is $50, but you could win $2,000. So check it out. All you got to go to is anglersatlas.com/tournaments. Just another way to showcase and show off your multi-species angling, and you might walk away with $2,000.
Awesome. Right on.
And we will see you at Camp McIntosh.
Yes, we will. September 23rd or 25th, or perhaps maybe you want to head up a little bit earlier or stay a little bit later. You can certainly do that. Just make sure you reach out to Tracy at Camp McIntosh to, as I said, get your butt booked in a bed.
All right, so we can stop sharing my screen, and let me just talk about the great folks at Shimano. And then we'll get on to the guests. If you come in first place overall, you get 2 combos for you and your partner. If you come in second place, you will get 2 combos for you and your partner. If you come in third place, you will get 2 combos for you and your partner. So thank you, Shimano. Now, on top of that, week 1, and we will reveal, maybe let's do it next Monday, Scotty. We'll reveal what species will be included in week 1. And if you catch those species, you will get a ballot into our week 1 draw. And if we pick out your ballot, another 2 combos from Shimano. Same with week 2, same with week 3, same with week 4. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 plus the 6. That's 14. That's 14 Shimano combos right there. Plus the last week, we always have our Shimano draw. And all you have to do is show Shimano product. That'll give you another ballot into our special Shimano draw. That's 16 combos from Shimano. So thank you, Shimano, once again for stepping up. And it's free. It's all free.
Yeah. You
can catch an 8-inch creek chub and walk away with 2 Shimano combos. And we'll have to ask Jim what the retail price is, but I think it's over $100 for that symmetry combo. So an 8-inch creek chub, you're walking away with almost $300 worth of Shimano. Pretty awesome to me.
Can't beat it, dude. Can't beat it. And yeah, absolutely. Shimano rules. That's all I can say.
So right on, Mike. Scotty. We'll see you Tuesday, 7 o'clock, everyone.
Yeah, baby. Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Have a good show.
Right on. Okay, great as always for Mike to join us. I also wanted to share something. I know a lot of folks love to see knots, and they, maybe they're like me and they want it dumbed down a little bit so that you can see maybe oversized rope or a close up. I was surfing fish apps, and I'm sure a lot of you probably know about this app. If you don't, it is an app that you have to pay. We're not sponsored, we're not affiliated, but it's just trying to share as much information as we possibly can. I did get on there and I was able to click on a lot of the videos for fishing knots. So if you have an interest to learn about a whole bunch of knots, I think there are 50 of them, if I'm not mistaken, that they have available. Fishbox, it's the #1 fishing app. I don't know about that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. As I said, we're not sponsored by them, but I just wanted to pass this on to you folks that if you're looking for great instructional videos on how to tie knots, definitely take a look at this. Download it. As I said, there is a yearly subscription, but you can go on there. I think it's for 3 days, and it doesn't take long. If you know what you're doing, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you can pretty much take a look and library all of the resources when it comes to the knots. So something to look at. But as I said, for some good tips, tricks, and techniques on how to tie knots, that is a great place to go. I can't think of a better time than to start with it seems like our theme song, but it is our intro to bring in our good buddy, Big Jim McLaughlin, who will be coming up next right after this. The one, the man, the myth, the legend, Big Jim McLaughlin. Always an honor to see you each and every Monday. Yeah, I saw that the Goldilocks were trimmed up a little bit.
I went in this morning, coming back from Ottawa, and I says to the girl, I says, just get the hair out of my eyes. It's bugging me, And she took the fleece off. I can't lift anything. I'm weak. I had a hard time rolling this table here. Look, I could hardly move it.
Well, Jim, looking dapper as always, dude. Never looking your age, and I'll tell you, your wit would certainly rival any teenager at this point, in my opinion. But something I wanted to ask you, and what sort of brought it to my attention, was a video that we shared today for Monster Monday, and I can't remember. I don't have the folks that we shared it from, but it's actually a really cool video, and it obviously it spawns the thought and the question: what was the weirdest thing that happened to you when it comes to fishing? Let me just share this video with Jim here with me. You guys have a look. This is you're on a charter. He is hooked into what probably is a little bit then. And find out later.
That's fine. He's pulling mine, no problem.
And
it's not gonna break. The
most ironic thing happened. Warren Frederickson said, "Oh, this has happened. 66 pounds." Whoa! What a beautiful fish. What a beautiful fish. And as I said, Jim, of course, it spawns the question, what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you on the water?
I've had a few. I've had some funny things happen, and I've had a few really good ones. I'm trying to roll a few through my coconut here. I don't want to, because I'll be talking about one and I'll think of something else. I just know it. I had the distinct pleasure of having 2 muskies on a jerkbait.
What?
Like fishing 4 muskies in the Rideau River in the fall after they dropped the water level, and I was using a Suick, and I'm jerking it in. Big swirl thunk fish, I would say, high teens, maybe like 18, 20 pounds. Beautiful fish, and it jumps a couple of times and it goes down in the water. And all of a sudden it just seemed the whole thing the fish just seemed to go ballistic. Like under the water, you couldn't see it, but it started to fight so hard. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then it came up on the top, and there's one that's probably 28 pounds, maybe coming close to 30, has got the bait by the head. So the 2 muskies are on the jerkbait.
Whoa!
At the same time. And I was with a guy called Don Hasty. He was a great walleye fisherman. And Don's probably like 90 now.
Wow.
I know he retired to Florida and that, so I just lost track with him. But he taught me a lot of stuff in fishing, boy, no offense, oars or butts. And it was so cool because I said to him, "Oh, one got off." I yelled to him, and he goes, "Oh, but you got the big one." And 2 seconds later, it was gone.
Wow.
They both got off within like 5 seconds of each other. And the lure is just sitting there like this on the water. And the water is glass calm.
And you could have heard a pin drop, I bet, at that point.
I know. I just felt like I ran around the corner and got the clothesline, in the cartoons or something. But yeah, no, that was a pretty wild thing. I know one day tournament fishing with Rocky up in Georgian Bay. I'm burning a spinnerbait in as fast as I can. Literally, we used to take a rubber core sinker, take the rubber out of it, and clamp it on the wire shaft, so you could add weight at the front of the spinnerbait, because they didn't make big spinnerbaits back then.
Right.
That were for bass. The heaviest you could buy was probably about a half ounce, maybe a little more. And then they started making, like ounce and a quarter, whatever. They got bigger. So we used to clamp a giant sinker on the front so you could get more speed and keep it in the water. And also using the willow leaf blades. Anyways, I'm burning this thing in. It's this far under the surface. And I'm bringing it in, 20-pound big game, just on a flipping rod, just burning as fast as I can. I'm burning it in, I get it back, and I lift it up out of the water, and we see a flash. We hear boom, boom, and like that. And Rocky looks at me, goes, "What the hell was that?" He was sitting down tying something. I said, "Oh, it's about a 3.5-pound smallmouth." So he says to me, "Why didn't you catch it?" I said, "Well, I'm lifting the lure out of the water," and he just shot in, So I turn around and I throw it in the direction he went. I turn the handle like 3 times and catch him.
No way. Wow.
Like the fish was primed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he just got robbed for dinner.
Yeah.
Probably was wondering what the heck was going on, and he was absolutely done. But yeah, there's so many other things. I did have a buddy it was not with me, but I had my buddy Gary had a little muskie in the Rideau River he was fishing for bass, and it ate a little topwater frog, like grass frog thing, right at the side of the boat. And he went to set the hook, and he didn't even really get to set the hook. The fish just bit it and sort of jumped and landed right in the boat.
Holy smokes.
We're about 100 yards away from him, and he comes over. He said, "I can't believe it." I said, "What?" He said, "Did you see all the commotion?" I said, did you catch a giant bass or something? Like, what happened?" He says, "No, I had a little muskie about 10 pounds jump in the boat after it ate my frog." And he says to me, "I never even set the hook. It just came shooting in, bit it, jumped, and boom, into the boat."
Unreal.
Went across the deck and out the other side. And the frog came out of its mouth.
Incredible.
Yeah. So just little, but when you put in a lot of time, stuff like that happens. Hey,
yes.
Another one. good buddy of mine from when I used to work in the bars. I became really good friends, lifelong friends, in fact, with a guy by the name of Donnie Walsh. That's a Downchild Blues Band.
Okay.
Mr. Downchild himself, And that's who was him. I got to meet Belushi and Aykroyd and all these guys and everything with him, and we used to go fishing and stuff like that. So it was really, really cool. But we had him out in the boat once, and we came back, put the boat on the trailer, and they were playing at a bar in the town we were in. So I said, well, why don't we fish off the dock here for a while in town? There's a few guys down there fishing. So we all rolled down there. They all got their jigs and everything, and so catch a couple of small walleyes, 14, 15 inches. The guys were excited because we hadn't caught much that day.
Yeah.
And I get snagged to something. I start realizing, I got something. I don't know what it is. And all of a sudden it takes off. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't figure this out. It was just like a dead weight. I could actually feel it bouncing on the bottom. And this is the famous story. He's told it on the stage and things like that when I've been there. So I snagged the Popeil pocket fisherman. Remember those little brown and yellow fishing things?
Yes.
I snagged one of those by the handle. Somehow my jig caught in the handle and held. So we get it up. We put the pocket fisherman in the net, and we lift it up, and I grab it, and there's a fish on it still. Whoever lost it had set the hook on the fish, and the fish was stuck, and it's pulling this thing around or was jammed. It hadn't been in the water long because there was no algae on it or nothing. So we brought it in. It was an 8-pound walleye.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Probably the best thing, and I don't think K-Tel's around anymore, but probably the best thing K-Tel ever produced was the pocket fisherman. But I will say this. Something similar happened to us up at Tazen Lake. Scott Stewart, if he's watching, can attest, and we have shared the video of a twig that a double-bladed hook hooked into, and on the end of it was a savage, I think it was a savage gear bait, and a big, massive trout. And it was incredible to see that thing drag to the surface. And then the realization that, wait a minute, he's not hooked into the fish. He's hooked into the twig that's wrapped around. Anyway, we will share the video.
Somebody ice fishing with a twig with their line on it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. But it is. Yeah, no, good point. But not up there. I don't think too many folks up that way ice fish. It's pretty desolate, Jim. But just an incredible story. Something I wanted also to get your take on. And again, something that it struck me. We've been seeing folks hold up some just very, very impressive perch and some massive jumbo perch, and you can tell that they're stuffed with eggs. And I don't know. Again, it's not here to point the finger, judge, or pass blame or anything. But as a conscious angler, is it ethical for us to keep those fish that we know that are full of eggs, or should we err on the side of caution and put those fish back?
I think it becomes a personal choice. You're not breaking the law.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the law, then work on getting it changed.
Yeah. As
with anything in life that we have laws for, if you don't like it, don't complain about it. Go work on getting it changed. Either lack of action, whatever. But I mean, it's me. I'm not into keeping fish. I've kept fish in the past. There's no offense. Like tonight was the first night I went out and looked in the back.
Yeah.
And it was nice and warm today. It was 23 here this afternoon. And just before the rain settled, it's just about to settle in here. We're supposed to get like 40 millimeters.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because I was sitting down the back, and Tammy was in the living room. She's had a few bad days, and she was sitting in the living room, and she told me, she said, "You look so peaceful and content sitting in that chair by the water again." She said, I just looked down and saw you, and she said, you just looked content. And I was. So it was the first time that I got to try these little dickens.
Beautiful.
Okay. Now, obviously I work for the company, everything else. I have never seen a little crankbait that runs as true and is as responsive in the water to everything you do to it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had this thing underneath the water, then I got it to walk the dog.
No way.
Now I don't know if that was designed to do it or not, but it's
I just think
definitely.
you were in the zone, Jim. You were just in the zone.
So then I get up here and I said to Tammy, I said, "Wow, it was so nice to fish with my accents again." It's number one. I really like it. I keep it for drop shot and they're fluff fishing usually, and everything else now is down there. So I get up, we're eating dinner just before I came back here, and a message comes up on my, or not a message, a memory comes up on my phone. So when I came up, I told Tammy, I said, there's a couple of bluegills, little guys like this down there at the end of the dock. There was a couple in the boathouse, but like they were the size of a toonie. And I don't know how they live through the winter. They're so small. And, there's all this green slime in the water from last year. It's rising up off the bottom. And the water's a touch high as it always, it's close to it this time of the year, maybe 6 inches higher than normal, but we've had a ton of rain.
Yeah.
And, there's schools of minnows because I'd land a little crankbait. I'd cast it out whenever I saw something on the surface, thinking there might be a couple of crappies around yet or whatever. And it would land and the minnows would all scatter. So then I tell her all this. So then up comes the picture from last.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Last April 25th. I don't know if you can see it, but I had the little spinnerbait on.
Yeah.
Which I brought the rod in from the garage. I hadn't used it since last year because I have everything set out, the rods for everything. And I took it off and I put the little crankbait on it just to run down. I grabbed the first rod that I saw that I knew had light line, and away it went. So I came up and I went on Facebook and I posted, "I'm a bum. A little ex-bride accents love, but the water is still void of critters. Saw a few minnows. So hopefully in a day or two, hang on." So I'm thinking Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Hang on.
There you go. Because
but it's so funny using your memories in your Facebook. Almost like I was never one to keep a logbook.
Yeah.
And I know some guys that did.
Yeah.
But man, you keep one even if you don't want to.
100%.
This way. It's I described exactly what I saw at the waterfront.
Well, let's hope you're right, Jim, because I know a lot of folks are looking for the bite to pick up. Although, as I said, for trout opener and Jason Barnucz.
Oh, I got some buddies that have been slopping crappies.
And really crappie too.
Yeah, busted them up big time. Good. But they're a lot of them are out in a boat or at some particular little place that they know where it just seems to be more consistent.
Yeah.
The way it happens, eh? But no, using that phone though, I never thought of it like that. I've seen so many things this spring that have popped up. Like the other day when I thought to myself, "Wow, I can't believe it! It's going to be -3 here tomorrow night or the night after." Stuff like that, cools off. And then last week there was one day I was looking at it and I said to Tammy, "I can't believe there's snow on the ground here again." And the day after, the memory comes up and I took a picture out the door, the patio in the backyard, and there's this much snow. So you say to yourself, "Wow, last year it was so nice." Well, apparently it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's got nothing to do with being a senior citizen. It's just, because everybody's talking. I used to love it when the weather guy in Ottawa, JJ Clark, used to come on. And he'd say, "Wow, we had 26 degrees today. Bet you can't remember the last time that happened." And I'd be sitting there thinking, "Oh, God, no, it hasn't done that in 20 years." And he'd say, "Well, it was last year on the same day."
Funny stuff.
Before
you do have a senior citizens moment, and you've told us some interesting stuff, some exciting stuff, and of course, when you were in the zone out back, and it was so nice to see Tammy recognize that. On a sour note, I don't have the video, so I'm going to ask you what your second biggest heartbreak was of a missed catch, because I know your first is when you were on with Dave, and your favorite rod went out the back. That's number one.
That was funny. I forgot all about that.
That's hilarious.
That's what I told you. I'd start talking, and I'd be here till 11 o'clock.
Amen. So what would be number two? What was your second worst heartbreak of a missed catch? Now you could just, folks, I'm sure you can just hear tick, 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 like the Rolodex.
The hamster's off the wheel. Look out.
I was just going to say tick, tick, tick.
I'm going to wait for him to jump back in. He's got 5 minutes to hit it while the wheel's going. I think about one thing that Rocky and I did was we were very. I don't want to try to sound like my head's fat or anything, but we were very skilled once we hooked a fish that it came in the boat, like ridiculously skilled. We just had an knack for it, and we were fishing the tournament together, and we went to the weigh-in, and I said to him, and I used to do this all the time. There's 3 minutes. Let me fish. So we stopped, and I dropped a jig in a patch of weed I'd never seen in my life at a weigh-in. I'd never fished in those weeds before, so I dropped down. First, just dropped it down once. See, the line just jumps, when the fish sucked it in. And I knew it was a good one. We already had like 25 pounds for 5 fish, but they were all giants. We just had a great weight. And I stick this fish, and it's probably like a 4-pounder. And I wound it right. I had it coming right away. It's only like 15 feet away from me. I had it coming. He takes the net and goes to scoop it, and the net catches on the cleat on the boat.
Oof.
Boing, he just stops, can't get to the fish. He's like this far from it, and I tried to drag the fish in, and I turned directions with it, and I actually heard the jig pop out of its mouth. And then we both saw the fish plain as day. It was right in the water, right in front of us, and I looked at him and I go, "How big is it?" He goes, "That was a 4." I said, "A little more?" He said, "Okay, 4.5." So every fish we had was close to 5, so it meant nothing. So we lose a big fish like that, and we still got a break on it, eh? And it was so funny. All the guys were bugging us, "Oh, I bet you could have used that one." And we didn't want to tell them we had threw fish like that back 2 hours ago.
Wow, what a great end to a great story.
Little things like that, it's when you look back and you think, I got so many people want me to write a book, eh?
Yeah.
I had a guy who's a really good artist offer to do illustrations.
Nice.
Of the things.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm sure everybody who's listening right now wouldn't mind a copy of that book. As I said, we could write a book just here for the number of lives that you've done and the stories you've shared. Holy smokes. Speaking of stories, of course, the latest edition of Just Fishing is available. Jim, some of the highlights you've been sharing on Facebook. Is there one particular article that you like more than the others?
I don't know. We got one up there right now. I mean, the whole thing's there at justfishing.ca. It's there, and it's free. Rosedall's article on crappies to me, because it takes you from ice into to get you through, not just going to the back of the bay. Like, you got to realize when crappies come in the springtime and people are catching them, they're not spawning yet. Eh?
Yeah.
Crappies generally spawn after the bass. That's why you'll see a crappie and you say, "Oh my God, look at the size of the bed. He's on a bed that's like 4 feet across for such a small fish." Well, they use old bass beds a lot of times. They just clean out a little spot and they use that. And it's the same thing with bluegills and pumpkin seeds and sunfish, like all sunfish. That's why bass are actually a sunfish, and the major thing there is because they build nests.
Right.
Like that's what they do. Sunfish species do that. But it's it's just it's what it is. It's you get out there, you look, you try to remember stuff, and that's why I saw when that memory come up. There's just so much to be had right now.
Amen.
I know guys that are out catching catfish. I mentioned it with my buddies with the suckers. The steelhead guys are having a hoot. I know some of the steelhead guys. Jason was just saying before we came on that you get this rain, all those fish are done, and they're going to be adios back to the lake. The ones that are going back.
Amen.
Yeah. I was sad the other day. I said somebody posted a picture of a salmon that had spawned. A steelhead, I guess, and it was obviously distressed and dying.
Yeah,
and it was so sad that they followed it with the camera. They filmed it.
I've seen it. Yeah,
there was a couple of those that people had posted, and then all of a sudden it was upside down and it drifted over to the shore, and you just thought to yourself, "There's the end of it right there."
Yeah,
So how many, I don't know too much about their spawning things, but how many years before they swim back up the same river, all this stuff. It's just those fish are really cool and special.
It is. You're 100% right, Jim. And I think that's why most of us who are watching, are, as I say, ethical anglers. As Alicia said, we take the glory shots of the fish, and in most cases, we release them for exactly that reason. These fish are
Like
doing
even these shots when I see people and they're trying to hold 4-pound smallmouth for a photo.
Yeah.
That just drives me nuts. Like you're just stressing the fish all the heck. People always say to me, "How come you only ever have photos of you with one fish or maybe a couple of crappies or something like that?" Well, I don't want to stress them.
Yeah.
It's not worth a photo. It really isn't. I see guys in the wintertime, they pull fish up, they're flopping around on the ice. It's 15 below zero, and they're holding the fish up for 25 pictures, and they put it back in the water. Oh, I let him go though. Well, his eyes are frozen out of his head.
Amen.
Stuff like that. The gills freeze really quick when they get exposed to air. So you really gotta. I understand a lot of people get excited when they catch a big fish. I understand that 1,000,000% because I used to be there. I really understand that, and I still get excited when I catch.
I was going to say,
doesn't make any difference. I've just learned to handle them better.
Absolutely, Jim. As always, my friend, I can't thank you enough for all you share with us. You bring so much each Monday, and there's a reason that we love you. And keep doing what you're doing, and give Tammy a hug for us, buddy.
I will do.
Right on.
You good, kiddies? Throw one back for me.
Yeah, baby. I love it. Take care, Jim. As always, just a gem. I can't. There's not enough words to describe it. Just honored to have him here every Monday as well. Lawrence Gunther, who's going to be coming up next.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence Gunther in the house, and you have come to us with a fantastic topic. First of all, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well.
Oh, boy. Did you get out for trout opener?
No, I didn't. Not yet, buddy. No.
Well, you know what? There's always time. Those fish are still in the river, and based on what we saw from the usual suspects, they did really, really well. It seemed like a very successful trout opener for all.
You know what? A few years ago, I have to admit, my days of wading creeks and in and out and ducking under branches and crawling along shorelines. I did that every year growing up in Georgetown because that's all we had was creeks and trout. Yeah. We didn't have anything else to go for. But I got a buddy now. He has a pond and he stocks it with 24-inch trout. And I pay him $10 a fish. I'll go there with my kids and grandkids, and they all catch one, and I'll come home with $40. I'll pay them $40, but we all got a nice big fish. They all catch a nice big trout, and boy, they're good eating too, right? I mean, it's like going to the grocery store, really. And that's my trout opener. And it's a little bit cheating, but it's so easy.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's still fishing.
Yeah.
And as they used to say, when I played hockey, they only asked how many. They never asked how.
I just have to watch my guide dog, man, because sometimes I turn around and he's got one. He's running away with it. I go, hey, that's a $10 fish.
So we've got friends that leave you out on the ice, and anyway, dogs that steal from you, man. I tell you, it's tough being you, Lawrence, and I don't envy you.
No, man, it's look, I got lots of perks too, so I'm not worried. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining.
You have an interesting topic that you want to share with us tonight in regards to youth training programs, and you want to pose a question to the community that's watching tonight that I think is perfect and on point.
Well, we're all ramping up with our plans to run youth training programs, whether it's taking a bunch of Boy Scouts or Girl Guides fishing for an afternoon or running a summer camp. Like we have a 6-week summer camp with Dovercourt in city of Ottawa. And that's going to be 6 weeks, 5 days a week, 6 different camps. It's over half sold out already. It's the most popular summer camp this community center offers. So last year we did 3 weeks. I'm doing it in partnership with Ottawa River Muskie Factory. and we provide all the training materials and a bunch of rigs and things like that, and flash cards and fish identification cards and tip cards on how to do this and do that for different species. But I'm always curious, like, you can go to scientists and say, what's the best way, or how long can a fish stay out of water comfortably, this kind of fish at this temperature, this time of the year? And you can get some pretty good scientific answers. But a lot of this stuff we're using comes from anglers, right? And these tips, these resources, and you can find them all on the bluefishcanada.ca website under resources. You can find all our tip cards there. They're all downloadable, all our tip sheets by species. But what do our listeners think we should be teaching our young people about fishing? And I'm not talking like, I can listen to Big Jim all night, and I have been all my life, on how to catch fish. But I'm talking about, what should we be doing when we catch fish, the kind of equipment we should be using to catch fish, and which ones to keep. You and Jim got into it, about letting the spawners go and things like that. So what ideas do our listeners have that we should be prioritizing in our lessons? All species, but all kids need to know certain things. What are they?
Now, is it possible, Lawrence, that we can take some of the suggestions in the comments, and will they be brought to a consensus or a committee for final discussion? Or
what I do is I gather it together. Then I look, okay, what do we have now, and does this alter or tweak what we're saying now? And quite often it's a little tweak, it's a subtle tweak, but every fine-tunement, right? It's like a motor. Every time you make a little tweak, it just runs that much better. It's that much more reliable. You're getting more performance. It's just a better idea. So yeah, send me your tweaks, send me your suggestions. And then we run it by we have local champions that we run these by, and these are top quality anglers like Jason and Big Jim, and people look at it and give us their feedback. And we have scientists as well that study this stuff and do the research and make sure it's factual and realistic. And we even have some First Nations advisors as well, that where they give us their values and their traditional knowledge, and we build that into it as well, because it's all applicable at a certain level. So yeah, but I think the best knowledge really comes from the anglers themselves. And this, I'm talking species specific stuff. Like now it's panfish, it's pre-spawn panfish, it's suckers, it's trout in rivers and streams. So yeah, let me please share it, and we'll take notes and we'll get it all down.
And this is one thing that I do really appreciate about our community. And I'm speaking to all of you who are leaving comments right now. Corey, that is a great comment that you posted. Obviously, fish handling is key. As we discuss in great detail how to catch these fish. But once we get them to the boat, or once we get them to the shore, what is our best avenue to make sure that we're instilling and ensuring the health of these fish? And fish handling is definitely number one. I would never, catch and release is something that is pumped on a regular basis. And, for the folks who enjoy the odd meal, I don't want you to feel like you're being browbeat for keeping a fish. Like, there was a gentleman, Paul Leger, that reached out to me and made a comment in one of our posts today about catching a brown trout, and he baked it. It was the first brown trout he's ever eaten. Now, some would say that brown trout, that's an exotic, not exotic, but a beautiful species of fish. Do we really want to cut those up and eat those? Well, you know what? At the end of the day, selective harvest is really important, because you do want to encourage folks to enjoy a fish fry, but do so in the sense that you're not looking like a glutton, like you're overfishing for the sake of stuff in your freezer. Knowing when enough is enough, I guess, is the best way to put it. Some other comments, please, as I said, share them, because as you just heard, Lawrence is going to be taking this to these committees and subcommittees, and they're going to be discussing these issues. And, if we want to educate our youth, this is the best way to start.
And I'm really dial it in, like get specific. That's what I'm looking at, is for those nuances, right? Those nuances in terms of, even when it comes to hook size or hook shape or presentation of the hook, lead alternatives. If you're on shore, if you're on a boat, if you're on a dock, get as specific as you can be, because, we know that, you can't use the same thing everywhere you go. the situation you're in determines what you're doing. And sometimes it's the time of day and the time of year and the weather. So there's so many variables, but this is all really excellent knowledge. And this only comes from experience.
100%. I know one other thing too that I would love to see, and of course I know I speak for the masses and the converted and what have you, but when it comes to getting youth involved, we need to get youth involved. We need to get involved in these hatchery situations, maybe the shoreline cleanups. But I think maybe at first it might be a little bit too intimidating for a child to get involved in something like going into a hatchery, because really all they hear is running water and they see loads of fish. What do I do? What could I possibly do to make a difference? I think they're doing okay here. You really don't need my help. Well, it's about passing the torch. And it to me, nothing got me more into fishing than seeing the work that's done in a hatchery. And this is why we'll go out of our way here to promote, rod and gun clubs, small groups that are doing fantastic things for their fishery, but more so the dedication that's involved in running a hatchery. Like you see Richard Elliott and everything that he does with the schools and bringing those incubated hatcheries to each school. And I think he's up to like close to 50 schools where he's bringing the eggs and they hatch in the fry. Ingenious, not to mention the fact he'll take those same students down to the river and release the fish. And now they feel as if they have ownership in maintaining the fishery. To me, that is where it starts. That's, ground zero. And hopefully we see more of that in the future. But getting youth involved in these programs is key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
what else?
It's true. It's not just the catching of the fish, it's the understanding of the fish, right? And that's really what angling's all about, isn't it? It's the understanding.
It is. And when you can see them close up, I'd have to say for a young kid going to Bass Pro, I'm sure one of the biggest draws is the aquarium.
Yeah.
No? Yeah. Like it would. Marineland was so fascinating, as a kid, whether you agree with the practices that go on there or not, it doesn't matter. The draw to see those fish in those aquariums where you can actually, I don't know, that to me it gives me goosebumps just to think about it.
Ripley's Believe It or Not, downtown Toronto. That's amazing. It's freaking amazing.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So I think it's important not just to entertain your kids, but to entertain your kids to a point where it can build passion and it can get them more involved. Because it's a desperate plea to all you parents who not only take your kids fishing but get them involved in events. Hats off to you. Mad respect on our part, and a big CFN shout out for all you do for that. What else is happening in Bluefish Canada?
Well, we did the video recording of the 4 local advocate champions of the Upper St. Lawrence River and how they managed to push back on a giant government organization that was planning on building a giant wharf on a very sensitive prime muskie spawning bed on the Upper St. Lawrence River.
Yes.
And they won, man. They won. So we got that video. It's we shared that with Canadian Fishing Network today on Facebook. We shared it with all our partners and sponsors. It's in the Bluefish News on the bluefishcanada.ca website. So you can link right there. And there's the editorial, there's the video, and all the other articles and the news in the media, the media news links and summaries in there as well. So yeah, that's all live now. So that was exciting getting that done. And
think about that. Think about that for a second, where good prevailed. At the end of the day, the right thing was done. Somebody stepped in, recognized that this is going to be detrimental to a fishery, and the proper resources. Because let's face it, there's money out there. Okay, I know we bleed that there's no, or we preach that there's no money. That is just not true. There is, if you want it to be, if you truly want to make a difference. And in this case, that's awesome. It's just an awesome ending to a fantastic story.
Look, this is a community, an entire shoreline community of several towns that said, hey, you know what? We understand there's going to be, if you built this, there'd be a lot of jobs in the construction, and there'd be a lot of permanent government jobs for life, right? Doing this, coming out of this, good jobs. And they said, no, they're not against it. They just said, not here. We'll find you another spot on the river, but not here. This is prime muskie habitat, prime muskie spawning habitat. You can't destroy that. And the whole public, man, the whole public got on board with this, right? The whole public. And they got the politicians on board, and they got the Thousand Island Land Trust, and they got the TIBS, Thousand Island Research Station, all the scientists, all the advocates, all the water quality geeks, all of them, and Ducks Unlimited as well. And they all said, no, not here. Bad idea. And in the end, they just got enough money and they just bought the land. Bought it out from under the government. Just said, no, this is ours now. We're putting it into a preserve. It's going to be for fish and to make sure there's going to be lots of muskie around in the future. So very cool.
Unbelievable. Yeah. You know what? I'm kind of in shock when I see this in the comments, because I've been actually waiting for a question like this. And I know this is going to be near and dear to your heart, Lawrence. Jeanette has just posted a comment. And this is so awesome. Lawrence, I missed it last week, but we are taking a young man out fishing this spring, and he is blind.
Oh, cool.
Any tips for us for a first timer?
I'm always thinking vertical, right? Fishing vertical. There's horizontal fishing, casting, and there's vertical fishing, dropping. You want to be vertical fishing, jigging, drop shotting, trolling, bottom bouncing, things like that. That's really just even putting the line in their hand. And I was just talking to my neighbor today. He came over to show me some rods. He's got 6 grandchildren. He said, Lawrence, I just bought this cottage. And I said, okay, you just get him to hold the line and dangle it down right beside the dock. And there's fish under there, and you can let them feel it. And that's the first thing. They have to understand the mechanism of the bite. And that's all done with the feel of the hand. So you start there, and then you work into a fishing rod, and then you go from there. But yeah, the casting is the last thing you need to teach.
Can you sense the excitement in Lawrence describing this? Like, you were that first timer at one time too. And Jeanette, again, big shout out to you for asking a question. I've been waiting for that question. I don't, how many years have we had you on now, Lawrence?
We just passed our 2-year anniversary, my friend.
Dude, I've been waiting for this question. And Jeanette, I wish we had a prize to give you, but needless to say, you win it. Finally, I saw that.
We'll send her a prize.
There you go.
Send me your address and we'll send you a prize. We'll give you something to get this young person fishing in the right direction there. I'll give you a little hand on that.
Fantastic, Lawrence. Well, listen, as always, my friend, our time flies. You bring a wealth as do all of our speakers. But again, just keep on being on, brother. Keep being you, man. It's awesome to see.
Thanks, man. And keep those comments coming, you guys. And whenever you think about it, whenever it crosses your mind, just pop it on there. We'll cruise through that list and mine it for the gold that it is. Thanks, everyone.
Right on. You take care, my friend.
Thanks, Scotty.
Bringing on our next speaker, and perhaps maybe Jeanette, Lawrence will set you up with something that your blind angler that you're going to be taking out will benefit from. But before we bring on Jason, and I know everybody is dying to talk about Trout Opener, here's a word from Jay's sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Jason Barnucz in the house. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, buddy. Good to see you.
Likewise. We missed you last week, but as I said, you know what? It's just great when we do get the chance, and life gets in the way sometimes. Stuff has to get done, and we appreciate it.
Well, I got a confession to make, and this isn't necessarily great news, but it's something I think I'll share with you and our friends here on CFN. So had a little heart issue last week, went to hospital.
Oh,
so I was admitted to Norfolk General Hospital last Sunday night, and just had some chest pain, but I couldn't get comfortable. Wasn't happening. So spent a couple days in hospital, all kinds of tests, CT scans, X-rays, ultrasounds. Actually, ended up going to Hamilton for an angiogram. I've been diagnosed with AFib. So it's I got to do some more tests. Everything's working out okay. No blockages, no major issues. So, but having, I guess I'm 47, I'm a big guy. And with COVID, it's not easy for family to come see me. So it was a big scare for everybody. So this year trout opener for me was not about the fishing, man. Not about the fishing. It was about just, when and I'm going to give a shout out to our good friends nearby, the Revive family. We usually fish on their property for trout opener. They own a chunk of Big Creek. And they left the keys to their side-by-side. They said, "You're not walking this year. We know you like to walk. You're going to take the side-by-side." I took Trevor and their son Reese, and I was their Uber in their nice Honda side-by-side for the day. I did some fishing. I told Trevor, though, I'm not doing the big bush stomp. I'm just going to kind of dangle my spinner here and there. And the boys caught some fish. I caught a few fish. Pretty chill day. And I won't lie, it was a little too much for me after, I guess I got home Thursday around noon. So Sunday was Sofa City watching my Jays. So been a long week, buddy. Been a long week.
Well, listen, you know what? At the end of the day, we're just happy you're with us. We're thrilled that you're in one piece and able to join us. But at the end of the day, big shout out to you, because you know what? Some of us are pig-headed, thick-skulled, and you know what? I just got a little bit of chest pain. But when something's not right, and nobody's the best doctor than yourself, when it's not right, take that step and get checked. Yeah. And there's a lot of folks that have those, incredible stories where something gets discovered early because they knew something was wrong. So good on you, Jay, for doing it.
100%. And I am, dude, I'm half Hungarian, half German. It doesn't get any much more pig-headed than that. So kudos to my manager upstairs for doing the right thing, calling the ambulance. And she's a lot, as nice as my wife is, she's a lot tougher than I am. Heather's a lot tougher than I am, for sure. So
you just don't
not out of the woods yet, but honestly, all the tests have come back really good. They just want to keep working on a few more things, and they got to solve this. They want to solve this AFib issue. I could treat it with medication, but my body's strong enough. They want to do some other things. So I'm actually I'm on the injured disabled list for fishing right now. I have like crazy bruising in my wrist from the angiogram.
And, I knew hey, listen, I knew something was up the minute I saw the red shirt.
Yeah, and it hurts.
Don't touch.
Even the ultralight rod on Saturday was like, ow, this is not good. So, I've been watching Alicia and the guys down the Southwest whale on those big catfish. My arm couldn't handle it right now. My arm couldn't handle those double-digit catfish right now. And I know they're on fire, but it's just one of those times I got to take care of me. And there's lots of fish to catch when I'm ready. So,
amen, brother. Well, that's good.
Yep.
Hopefully there is a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to that. Obviously, there's lots of treatment. This isn't a new thing. Obviously, there's folks that have dealt with it in the past. And, of course, the doctors are becoming very well-versed in how to properly treat it. So, Jay, as a lot of folks have already mentioned, our prayers and thoughts are with you. And, dude, don't hesitate to reach out to the community if you need
thanks,
something.
everyone. But, you know what? Fishing was great. Like, as typical trout opener for us, man. The water's actually a little higher than last year. Most of our rainbows are done their spawn around here. Like, there's a few areas right now I could go catch dropbacks. But you know what, Scotty? I'll be standing with 40 other people catching those dropbacks in those areas. A lot of the reds we saw, the reds are they're done. Like, they've done their spawn, they've left, the reds are there. So we kind of targeted spring browns, but you go up north because we've had a late spring, and some of my friends who are doing research in the province and even in parts of the other Great Lakes states like Michigan, things are just kind of getting going. And I think that some of the steelhead, like I've seen some posts, a lot of our good friends are catching dropbacks right now. A few fresh fish are still coming in, but the rain we're getting across Ontario tonight is it's going to flush a lot of those fish back to the lake. It always happens. The first big rain, those fish flush back. But you know, there's years where we'll see fish spawning up into May, right? So I think that's going to happen in some of those Huron tribs further north of us, like up around the Saugeen and the Sauble, and some of those Georgian Bay tribs. But I think a lot of our Lake Ontario tribs and our Lake Erie tribs, the rainbow fishing is going to end fairly soon, which is great. Like that's why season opens at the end of their spawn, give them a chance to spawn and get back. But the good news is we're finally getting some spring weather. Like that, in 2 days this weekend, that 20-degree weather for 2 days we had, because it was kind of dreary Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Then that sun came out. And in the woods, like, you know, dude, I'm all sentimental, right? I'm sitting there in the side-by-side, just spent a week in a hospital bed, and I'm just sitting there watching the trout lilies bloom in the forest, right? And I'm like, the forest greened up in 2 days, like greened up. It went from brown to green in 2 days. And I know the crappies are biting, the suckers are running, the catfish are running, and soon the pike and perch are going to pick up on Lake Erie. You mentioned the walleye already. Like this is the time of year. If you're a multi-species angler, this is the time to get out. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Like other than targeting bass and muskie, in a couple of weeks, you can pretty much fish for whatever you want. So it's a lot of fun. And walleyes opening in some areas this weekend and some areas the weekend after. So within 2 weeks, most of Ontario will have walleye open. It's just awesome. This is just my favorite time of the year, you know?
And one thing too, Jay, to further that, and I'm going to ask you to jump in here. A lot of the pictures that I saw anyway of the trout, the steelhead that were being caught, looked like they hadn't spawned out yet. Looked like some of them were quite full still with eggs. Is it a good thing that trout opener happened on a weekend like it did, where now all of a sudden we're going to have this rush of water from rain, and perhaps folks aren't going to be in the rivers throughout the week? You get that week where the fish are able to do their thing, get it done, and then sort of move down, as you say. Now, obviously, as anglers, it sucks. You hate that. But I'm thinking more of the fish and the reproductive aspect, the spawn of it. Is it better for spawn in this kind of scenario?
I think it is. But everywhere's so different, you know, Scotty. But I think overall across Ontario, I think what you're saying is accurate. I think that's what's happening. Further north you go, there's probably still fish running. You know, like, geez, I saw pictures today of friends up north of the Sioux. You know, and they still got huge pack ice at the river mouth. The rivers are open, but they're still lined with ice, like 2 feet of ice chunks sitting there at the river mouth. You know, so there's still lots of steelhead to have, but I think in Southern Ontario, you know, a lot of us sort of those Lake Ontario tribs, Lake Erie tribs, and the Southern Lake Huron tribs, like probably from the Maitland and the Bayfield and those, pretty much rainbow fishing is going to be over for a while. Now, some of the big rivers, Scotty, the Maitland, the Saugeen, they'll hold fish for a while because those fish take a longer time to get back to the lake. And there's some great spring fishing opportunities for dropbacks in those systems for the next couple of weeks. A lot of those fish spawn in the tributaries. And so the tributaries, they're going to get in there, they're going to spawn, and they're going to drop back. But what's happening now is the fish that run in now to spawn, they're not going to be in there for a long period of time. They're going to run up, they're going to spawn, and they're going to come back. And that's typical for a lot of the different strains in the Great Lakes that we have for different rainbow trout strains. And the spring run strains that we get, like they'll run up, spawn, and leave in a couple of weeks. Whereas some of the other ones, they run up in the fall and they'll winter over and they'll drop back and they'll spawn and then drop back in the spring. Rainbows are so cool because of all the different strains. Like we've been passing fish locally here at the dam since last September. Last September, we started lifting fish. So, and I know some of those fish, rainbows are, now there's records of fall spawning fish, but it's very rare. So those fish are running up in September and they're wintering till March and then dropping back. You know, so they're spending literally 6 months of their year in the river getting ready to spawn. But what's great about those fish is they spawn and they're almost guaranteed success because they're spawning in March and their eggs will have a longer growing season. So and you know all about this, man, by the time those eggs hatch in spring, after a couple months, they will be bigger than eggs that are laid in April. Those March laid eggs will be bigger than the eggs in April, and those fish will be bigger by fall, and those fish will grow more and survive and better survival. And it's like that with all fish species. The sooner those fish can spawn, not saying not all, but most of the fish that we're talking about on this show in Ontario and in Manitoba and parts of all the freshwater fish, we give themselves a chance. They spawn earlier, the eggs are bigger, and those fish have a longer growing season. It's so important.
And it's no different really for walleye, and anybody who is a walleye enthusiast and knows more than myself, you might correct me, but I've always said that the less of an incubation period, the better. I know it goes against the grain of thought, but the faster you can get those fry out of the egg sacs and sucking in those yolk sacs, the better it is for the fish's survival. Just because you have fungus, you have weather events that'll silt over the eggs and suffocate them. But yeah, you're 100% right. I agree. Sometimes a late spawn is not so bad as long as the anglers recognize that they are still full of eggs and let them back. I'm going to let you jump in on that. Now, Alicia, she answered it perfectly, and it's probably bang on true for a lot of folks who are regulars on Facebook. But you see these big perch, and I'm like everyone else. I admire the heck out of these things. They're massive, but you can tell they're full of eggs. Yeah. As an ethical angler, is it our duty to release those fish?
So here's the thing about perch, female perch, and I believe this is actually coming out of one of the recent articles from Gord Pizer. He wrote a good 2-piece article on perch this winter. So perch spawn right after ice out. Most of the perch that we catch, all of us, are females. Why? They're the most aggressive. They're the ones that want to feed the most. Right. To invest into their eggs. And it's been shown that most of the perch that are caught are female. And so it's hard to avoid, and you can't sex a perch from the outside unless they're actually gravid and they're dropping eggs or milt, right? So, and by the way, last year, Trevor got his first experience of perch fishing in the spring, and he was milted on quite a bit one day. And it was quite the, for a 12-year-old kid, he was like, what the heck?
He was traumatized. He got slimed.
Yeah, he got slimed hard. He didn't realize what was going on. But we can't sex those fish, Scotty. So, you can't sit there and say, oh, just because males get big too. Yeah. Not as big as females traditionally, but some of those larger males are important as well. Now, the females in most fish species, this with walleye, especially in the perch family, the bigger ones are the with those eggs are the important ones. And I think what's important, we just go back to, we talk about the greed factor. And we talk on this show a lot about the greed factor. So don't keep the big ones, keep the reasonable sized ones and know how much you're going to eat. Like I've learned the last 2 winters doing as much ice fishing as we've done. If I can catch, 20 perch between 9 and 11 inches, that's lots of fish. That's like 2 meals for this family. I'm not even talking I'm over full at those meals, right? Because you're gonna have some coleslaw, you're gonna have some French fries or whatever. But to keep 50 perch 100 possession, it's just way too high. That's my opinion. And I'm not a perch expert. That's me, the angler, talking to our CFNers here, because I'm not an expert in perch biology, but as an angler, I don't see the need to keep 50 yellow perch, and have to have 100 in your freezer. Like, as much as Heather loves perch, if I brought home 50 perch, she would lose her mind, because if it would take a big chunk of the freezer space, to be honest. And Erica, exactly, moderation. Everything in life is moderation, right? I learned, trust me, that word, Erica, was used in the hospital all last week about, everything we do in life should be moderated carefully. And it just the same way with fish. And, and we should not be keeping as many fish. Keep what you're going to eat and let the rest go. Don't load your freezer up. For some reason, people, it's like hoarding toilet paper when it comes to perch. Like, people complain about toilet paper. This has been happening with fish in Ontario for years. And there's reasons in in the Great Lakes and surrounding areas why the panfish limits are dropping all across Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. Like, we're talking lakes or regions where you're allowed 5 crappie, 10 crappie. Perch limits have dropped in Ohio. We don't need 50. For some reason, we have it, and I was raised this way, Scotty. I was raised this way. You catch it, you keep it. Like the live well was not meant to keep fish alive. It was meant to be packed with ice and bring the fish home to eat. That's how I was raised.
Yep.
I've learned, right? And we can all, I can admit that was wrong, and we can learn. It's not that we shouldn't be harvesting fish. We should do it in moderation. Okay. That's what I think.
And Jeremy, yeah, I would agree and pass along the sentiments. It doesn't matter what the species, whether it's smelt, perch, walleye, it doesn't matter. Everything in moderation. Because I'll be honest, and I don't know if we can really pinpoint what happened to the smelt in Lake Simcoe, but I do remember as a kid going up there with a garbage bag in hand, watching my father and my grandfather wade into the water and pick all those smelt up for the sake of bringing them home. And of course, there was probably a dozen doing the same thing with headlamps and whatever. And lo and behold, the smelt disappeared.
Hey, but the thing about the smelt is that was, and if I could be wrong, I'm going to make a guess. The smelt fishing was great before we had zebra mussels, before we had round goby.
Absolutely.
That lake has been through so many changes, it can't sustain the smelt anymore. It's not, we didn't over harvest the smelt. I think the smelt left. And remember, smelts are not native to the Great Lakes Basin. They're not a native species. They came in from other areas into the Great Lakes, either through introduction or through other waterways like the Erie Canal and others. And when they came here, they boomed and then they busted. And there's still smelts around. I hear that the Lake Erie smelt population is doing really well right now. So they're still here, but not like the numbers that we had in the past. And I don't know enough about smelt ecology, so what they eat and their habitats, but I'm going to guess, just like most science around invasive species, they're going to peak and then they drop off. And that peak can last for 10, 20 years because it took 30, 40 years to get there. And then you'll see that peak drop. Mm-hmm. And in some places, because Lake Simcoe, in the grand scheme of things, is a pretty small lake compared to Erie and Superior and Huron and Ontario. And so it just couldn't sustain the smelt. And then probably the zebra mussels coming in and clearing that water up probably took a major food source away from smelt because they're going to be feeding on zooplankton and phytoplankton. You take away that food source, you lose it. So that's why I'm guessing what happened to the smelt. And the comment, Jeremy's comment about smelts, is that smelt, rainbow smelt, are like they're invasive. And, should we have limits on smelt? I don't know. Like they're an invasive species. I think it should be take as many as you want. Right. And we did. Right. But I don't think that our over harvesting, it had an impact, but I'm going to bet the changes in the food web, the changing ecology of the lakes impacted the smelt more than you eating them and your friends. I'm serious. That's my, and that's just a guess. I'm not an expert on smelt ecology. So,
Ed brings up a great point, and there is an argument to be had in regards to that. Most folks who do fish Simcoe would suggest that perhaps maybe there's an overabundance of perch, and maybe lowering the limits might end up stunting many year classes of fisheries to come. In this case, when it comes to Simcoe, could there be an argument on this behalf?
I don't think so, but I think that what we have to do is we have to stop being so scared to try things. So for we're guessing, right? But the beauty about like Lake Simcoe, and I haven't seen George on here tonight, but Lake Nipissing, the data for these lakes is incredible. And we have enough information now that if we make a moderation to a regulation, we should be able to change it back. I know it takes a few years to change regs back and forth because you have to go through the Environmental Bill of Rights and all that. But I do believe that if you drop the perch limits on Simcoe, not drop them entirely, you just reduce them. And I'm talking just reduce them to 25. Just cut them in half. 25 and 50 should be enough. And if you do that, you'll probably see more bigger perch. I believe that in the heart of hearts. I truly believe that. I don't think you'll see a stunted fish because people will still eat them. The only time we typically see stunted fish in lakes and especially in enclosed systems is when there's just we're keeping too many of the big ones and too many small ones are left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why in Minnesota and in Minnesota and some of those Midwest states, that's why the panfish regs are the way they are. Everyone's keeping the 9, 10, 11-inch bluegills. And even though you could drop limits, they were still keeping giant bluegills. And so they had to drop the limits on both numbers and the size and put slots in for some of the bluegill lakes. And bluegill, so I'm going to say Lepomis, which is the genus for bluegill, pumpkin seed, green sunfish. Lepomis are different ecology than perch, yellow perch. But in the end, Scotty, I don't think that they would stunt the Simcoe fish at all. It's such a huge lake. I think it would give fish a chance because as humans, let's face it, man, if you go to Lake Simcoe and you're catching lots of 10 to 12-inch perch, I know very few that will just sit there and fire them back down the hole, And in a lot of cases, too, we're catching on such deep water, you can't put them back down the hole. You shouldn't. Like, there's an ethical thing there you have to think about, too. There's an ethical issue about if I'm targeting, and I do target sometimes perch in deep water, I'm going to say quite a bit. When I go to Simcoe, I usually don't target numbers. I'm after size. I don't care if I catch 25 or 50 perch. I'm after the biggest one I can catch that day. But at the same time, those fish could be coming out of deep water. And so I'm not going to keep many. I'm going to keep a couple if I have to, and that's it. So, we have to balance the regulations with what we want to achieve. But I do believe, Scotty, that in the end, we won't see stunted fish on Simcoe. We just have to reduce that catch because we just love to eat perch too much.
This is true. Yeah. And Steve mentioned about the alewife. Absolutely. Talk to the folks in Lake Michigan about the alewife population. It's amazing to see what can happen so quickly to your forage base.
And hey, man, that's another invasive species. 100%. That's not native to the Great Lakes, right? Yeah. So it came in during the 60s and the 70s when the nutrient levels in the lakes were through the roof. And then the zebra mussels come in and change the ecology. We went from basically stained, not polluted, I don't say that's harsh, but the ecology of the lake has changed so much from the 70s to now, in those 40 years.
Well, think
almost
about
50 years.
Like Lake Erie in the 70s was a dead lake. It was not
right.
a ton of fish. So yeah.
So we would have to take, and Lawrence has touched on this in the past about changing the nutrient levels in the lakes. But in reality, our lakes in Ontario, like the Great Lakes, outside of Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair, they're oligotrophic lakes. They're lake trout lakes. Mm-hmm. And to bring alewife back, I don't think we can because the lake ecology can't sustain them. Like we've changed the food web. So you can put them in. What are they going to eat? Because there's not enough zooplankton. They're planktivores. So zooplankton, phytoplankton. Now, all fish feed on plankton of a certain size, right? Even young walleye, young perch, young northern pike, young muskie, they will feed on plankton until they get big enough to eat other fish. But alewife pretty much just eat plankton their whole life. And without the plankton levels like we used to have, you're not going to see them anymore. And we could stock them, but there's nothing for them to eat. It's tough. It
is. And yes, Jeremy, I do remember that. Lake Erie was so bad it caught fire. It's true. Kevin, you bring up an interesting comment about the regs in Manitoba. It's a change to 13 3/4 slot for black crappie. So
saw that.
I'm assuming, is it 13 3/4 and below you can keep or above?
That's a good question. You know what? I'm not sure. I heard about the slot. Kevin, let us know if that's below 13 1/4 or above. Because black crappie are native to some of those, like some of northwestern Ontario and sort of that would be like southeastern Manitoba, right? So they're native to some of those lakes, and people are picking up on it. There's been a lot of people targeting black crappie. I know in our national fisheries and oceans ice fishing contest, man, they were weighing in hubcaps from Manitoba, like hubcaps, like 14 and a half, 15-inch crappies, right? And I'm not talking one or two. Like, I'm like, dang, I can't keep up with these hubcaps coming from Manitoba. But I don't know if I'm going to assume they're doing that to conserve those larger fish, because some lakes that they're producing such large fish, they want to try and conserve those numbers.
Wait for Kevin's answer, but I do. There has been a trend in Manitoba where they want anglers to target the larger fish. So it's quite possible that it's 13 3/4 and above that they want you to keep, and to ensure the fisheries of the future. But interesting, Christina asked a question, and you would probably know this best. When it comes to the process, when it comes to changing a regulation like this that Kevin has mentioned, how much science goes into it? How much time has to elapse? And of course, how much money usually is spent before a regulation change occurs?
It all depends. It does take political pressure, and I think that's a big driver in Ontario is we're slow to change our regs here. We are at a snail's pace. Like, look how quickly they change regulations, like the panfish regs in Minnesota. Part of the reason why Christina, why we don't want to see regulation changes, I say we, like I'm not involved in regulation change. I'll keep my fishing hat on.
But you are part of the science, correct, Jay? Like, I mean, when it comes
like some of the data I collect contributes to that, and a lot of my colleagues are. But the reality is that there's a push in Ontario. Like, we have a huge landmass of Ontario, Scotty, and it's really hard. They want to keep the regulations easy to interpret. So I think we could have better fishing in Ontario if we micromanaged fish better. But that's really hard to enforce and really hard to educate. For example, I've said on this show before, the walleye fishing in Rice Lake is nothing like any other Kawartha Lake. And it should probably have its own regulation, its own unique regulation. Whether it be a different slot size or something to make it better. Like, you could make it like a trophy walleye lake. But there's no desire to do that because it confuses things because of the enforcement issue and just the education of it, right? Yeah. People have a hard enough time understanding, because the average angler, don't take this wrong, they're not listening to this show. Okay? The ones who are listening to this show are passionate anglers. And in reality, we have to manage, the collective, we have to manage to the average angler, who goes out a few times a year, maybe once at the cottage and a couple other weekends. That's it. And they're the ones who are using the resource, not say the most, but those are the heavy resource users. And it really makes it hard to micromanage our fisheries.
100%. And you know what? On that, Jay has just offered us a challenge. We need to get more of those average anglers listening to this show, because I'm sure a lot of you would agree. I think we all have the similar thoughts, and we need more of us. At the end of the day, we end up with roughly 1,500 views, and I thank every single one of those views that we get. But we need to see that increase for the simple fact that there is a heck of a message. There's a lot of science, a lot of information that is shared here, and we need that to get in the ears of those who don't necessarily fish as often or maybe as passionate as we. But it is what it is. But we'll work harder on that. So Kevin did respond. It is 13 3/4. Anything over needs to be released. Still a limit of 6. That's interesting. Only 6 crappie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there you go. Manitoba is trying to manage black crappie to make them sustainable. And that's actually really cool, Kevin, that you share that information, because it tells me that the fisheries managers in Manitoba are trying to protect the black crappie, because those are the big breeders. And I know that there's been talk of them being overexploited. And so by having to release the ones 13.75 and over, you're protecting those populations. You're protecting those big breeders. Yeah. That's no different than, releasing our big walleye, Scotty, we talk about like the Bay of Quinte, the 4-fish limit you're allowed 1 over 24, right? 24.75, whatever it is. Like that slot is designed to allow you to still keep your trophy. You got to let the rest of the trophies go.
Amen.
So that's a good slot. Actually, who brought up the burning ale question or the burning ale? Was that Steve? It's all right. So there actually is a pale ale out there called Burning River Pale Ale. I've had it. It's out of Ohio. Great Lakes Brewing Company made it. And on the picture of the can is a picture of the Cuyahoga River that caught fire back in the 50s because it was so polluted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's amazing to think. Like, I mean, what could we have possibly been producing? Because our chemical industry has evolved, and there are chemicals out there. First of all, you need a dictionary to pronounce. You need someone that speaks that language to explain it to you what it is. I don't want to say there was a bunch of. I would say it was a smaller compound or group of compounds that were introduced into the waters, but yet powerful enough to do that kind of damage. And I'm glad we turned around. Nature is a very vibrant and adaptive thing, and we're lucky for that.
Well, and while you have that, my comment up there, you can see the little Facebook, my profile pic, which is a heart that Stephanie drew for me. So that's my heart at the hospital, and that's a little fish in my heart swimming around. So that's what she drew for me. So,
well, as I said, we knew something was up because you were wearing the red shirt, and I'm glad everything is on the mend. I know you're not out of the woods yet, but as Ed mentioned, take care of yourself, dude. And if there's anything you need, my friend, this is
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Always, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
So much. You take care, Jay. All the best, my friend.
Thank you.
Great show as always. Thanks so much for all of you who have joined tonight. Again, it's the wealth of information that is provided by those who come and speak and share stories and their tips, tricks, and techniques. And you folks who are willing to come each Monday to listen, that makes this work the way it does. As always, I'm going to lean on our good buddy Dave Mercer to take us out. I wish all of you a great week. Stay safe. Enjoy trout opener. If you didn't get out this weekend, hopefully you get out this week. Hopefully they're not sending back to the river. They're not on their way back and you end up hooking one. But keep in mind, if it is full of eggs, do your part and release it, because they have to do their part as well. All the best, my friend. Take care. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, Tourney Tuesdays, and of course next Monday. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.